gentlemen, broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medieros, and today we have a great episode in store. We are going to be talking about all linebackers. So we're going to be ranking our top 5 linebackers, and our fan box segment, we're going to be talking about how we're gonna review all the responses where they talked about all of the most underrated linebackers headed into 2022, some of the most underappreciated linebackers. So we apologize that we weren't able to get an episode out to you last night on Tuesday when they're supposed to be released. We have very busy schedules and we're not always available, but we are going to get you guys your football content regardless. And if that means we have to reschedule every now and then we're going to have to do that. And we will keep you guys posted on that. We're going to have to reschedule our Thursday episode as well. Not just a day, but all the way to Sunday. And we have a great episode in store for that. We have several AFC North fans of different teams, and that's going to be a fun one. But we'll get into that later. But we have our top 5 linebackers coming up. Without further ado, CJ, give me your number 5 linebacker going into the 2022 NFL season.
Thanks for that stirring introduction, Adam. And let's dive in. So my number 5 entering 2022 is somebody that I view as extremely underrated, but I'm looking at Falcons linebacker Deion Jones. Now, plain and simple, he gets overshadowed by the abysmal Falcons teams, and he has no help. I mean, for a while, now I'm not talking about AJ Terrell or someone like Grady Jarrett. I'm talking about with the linebackers, he really doesn't have any help. And I mean, he had Foysad Olakun, I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. And if so, I'm sorry. But he doesn't have that anymore. And last season, he had an eye-popping 137 tackles and 2 sacks and a few pass deflections as well. He can pick the ball. He can rush the passer if need be. And he's just a sideline-to-sideline tackling machine. Super underrated. And I feel like if he were on like a bigger name team like the Cowboys or the Patriots, he would totally get the recognition he deserves.
Yeah, I do like that pick. And when you brought him up in the fan box responses.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Yeah, so you brought him up, but you could add on it whatever you want when he comes up in the fan box. But he did rack up a lot of tackles. I looked up some of his statistics, a lot of tackles, and it really stinks because Atlanta they're not going to get any better in the next couple of years.
That is accurate.
So it's not looking great for them. However, my number 5 is Demario Davis. So Demario Davis, he's not great in coverage, but he makes up for it with his tackling ability, and he has an ability to get to the quarterback. And to be able to do both of those things is big for a linebacker. I tend to think that being obviously coverage is important, but if you're a linebacker, you need to be able to tackle, and to be able to get to the passer is good as well. Coverage is, I would say it's almost bonus. Obviously, you know, if you are able to cover, then you're a Swiss Army knife. And a lot of the players who I have above Demario Davis can cover, but I think this is a player who also does not get much recognition, and he can cover and he can get to the quarterback, which is great.
Yeah, Adam, look, I absolutely agree with Demario Davis. I mean, he's not really talked about on like the Saints and stuff. You know, he's getting up there in age, but like I said, coverage isn't his strong suit. But what I also like about him is that he's a leader. You know, you can hear him like calling out the plays and stuff, and he truly anchors the middle of the field.
Yeah, you're right. You add that onto it as well. He's been in the league since 2012, and he's been not only that, but he's been on the New Orleans Saints since 2018. So you do bring up a good point. He is a good leader, and he's a presence in the locker room who's been there for a while. So all the young guys, especially now, since this is a very young New Orleans team, they're really going to listen to him, and that's going to be great. Another thing that I forgot to mention. Big tackles for loss guy, double digits in tackles for loss in every year since 2017, which is big to be able to do that. And quarterback hits have been big. So again, a big, he gets to you in the backfield to say the least. He'll, whether you're a running back or you're a quarterback, he'll hit you, he'll sack you, he'll stuff the running back behind the line of scrimmage. So this is a player who I really like, and he's kind of underrated. I kind of had to look into some of the linebackers, and I'm like, he kind of sticks out to me. But why don't you give me your number 4?
All right, coming in at number 4 might be a little controversial. Some people, they might want him higher. My number 4 is the now Rams linebacker Bobby Wagner.
Wow.
And I have nothing against Wagner, but I don't think he's top 3 anymore. And maybe I'm a bit ageist, but that's exactly why. He's getting up there in age. I mean, he's still at 170 tackles. I mean, that's great, but last year only 3 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, 1 sack. I don't believe, and like 1 pick. But
Yeah,
I don't. But, you know, I like I said, I have nothing against him, but it's just like, if this was like 2 years ago, he would easily be number 1. But, you know, Father Time, for the most part, is undefeated. And yeah, like, there's really not a lot to tack onto that. But do not take anything I'm saying as an insult. He's still a top 5 inside linebacker, and he will be a welcome presence on his new team in the LA Rams.
Yeah, and I have him as my number 4 as well. And the reason I have him lower than he was last year, and I think I had him, and guys, remind me if I'm wrong. I think I had him like top 1, 2 last year. And now I kind of have him dropping because he's a little bit slower. He used to be a great coverage linebacker, and he never really had a big ability to get to the quarterback. Not like Demario Davis or some of the other linebackers who I have ahead of him.
Yeah.
And when you take away the coverage factor, all he can do is tackle, which is great and all. But I mean, when you're aging, you're going to slow down, and eventually the ability to tackle is going to disappear as well. And I think this guy's going to be still great, and he's going to. I think he's going to be much more rejuvenated, being on a new team that's a championship contender. And I think that's really going to help him out. It's going to motivate him big time. He's he's literally ring chasing. But other than that, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like, it kind of sounds a lot like you and I are just kind of trying to trash on Bobby Wagner, but I really do have respect for him. And I wanted him to be a New England Patriot.
Oh yeah, I
did
too.
Myself. It's just he's not the same guy as he once was, and I just think age is going to catch up with him, especially for a defensive player who's, linebackers there's no shortage of physicality. It's not like the quarterback position where you're getting protected every play. But what's your number 3?
Now, some people might not like him this high, but my number 3 is the Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons. And yes, I am well aware that he's a rookie. He's only going to his 2nd season. Expect the sophomore slump, yada, yada, yada. But good Lord, what he's able to do is insane. Now, like I said, if he were a veteran, he would probably be in my number 1. But, young guy, you can't really put him number 1 right away. But let's not take anything away from him. 84 tackles last season. 20 tackles for loss, 13 sacks as well, and 3 forced fumbles and 3 passes defense. That is That is insane for any rookie to come out and do. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year, selected to the Pro Bowl, and first team All-Pro as a rookie. Need I say more? The sky's the limit for this kid. But like I said, it's only, you can't really give a young buck like that the number one spot. But mark my words, he puts up another season like the last year, he's definitely going to be number one.
All right. So this is where we're going to disagree. I have Fred Warner at number 3. I think Fred Warner is another great leader, and he's a tackling machine, and he doesn't even need help on these tackles. So out of all his tackles, so let's look at, for example, this past season had 137 combined tackles. 79 of them were solo, meaning they were just open field. He was just able to do it himself. He's a good tackles for loss guy, and he's pretty solid in coverage. So I think this guy is just Mr. Reliable. He's worth every penny of that big deal that he signed this past offseason, and I like him going into this season.
Yeah, Adam, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And
so, what's up?
I was just going to say, are we moving on to number 2?
Yeah, we can move on to number 2.
Because
what is your number 2?
It's Fred Warner.
So we don't agree. And what if I told you that my number 2 is what you had at number 3?
Hey, you know what? I mean, we both have in top 3, there's little things we can debate, but for me, what sets Warner apart is that leadership. Parsons is a young guy. I'm not saying he can't be a leader, but right now, Fred Warner truly commands that defense. Like I said, he's the center point. It all revolves around him. But Parsons, he'll get there soon. That's just my thing.
Okay. So the reason why I have Micah Parsons number 2 is because this kid just showed up his rookie year and he balled in literally every way possible. He can tackle for a loss. He can get to the quarterback. He was among the lead sack leaders at one point in the season. I'll double check his statistics, but I believe he finished with
I have them in front of me. He finished with 13
sacks for a linebacker. That is incredible. He can play in coverage. The only reason I don't have him number 1 is because of his lack of experience. Like you said, that's the only knock I have on him. But other than that, this kid could play. And when I was arranging my top 5, I looked at Micah Parsons and I said, okay, this guy, he's going to jump into my top 2 right away. And I double checked statistics. I did my research and I was like, God, the only knock on this guy is from being like the unanimous number 1 is his experience, his lack thereof experience, that's not something you can really knock him for because it's not his fault for being young. And that's almost a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing that he has, he has such
sky's
a
the limit for this kid.
future?
Absolutely.
Now, the only way we could really fault him is if he comes out and it turns out that 1 year was a one-hit wonder. And it turns out he's just an okay linebacker or just a very good linebacker and not like on the upper echelon, like top 1-2 linebackers in the league. That's the only way that we could really knock him for. But give me, and I have a feeling that you and I are in agreement for our number 1, but why don't you give it to me so that you can say the quiet part out loud.
All right. So obviously the best linebacker in the league. He's still a free agent, Dante Hightower. No, I'm kidding. I am kidding. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. He's old and slow, but I will still love him. But no, all jokes aside, my number 1 linebacker of the NFL from the Indianapolis Colts, Darius Leonard. Adam, is this also yours?
That is correct. Do you want to explain a little bit why, and I can add to that?
Yeah, sure. So he's a tackling machine. He had 122 combined tackles. 75 of those were by himself, and he didn't really get any sacks last year. But I'm noticing something how the Colts are using him. They're not using him as like an off and on edge rusher. They're using him in coverage. And good God, has that investment paid off. Last season, he had 4 interceptions and 8 passes defended and 8 forced fumbles. This guy is insane in coverage. He goes sideline to sideline, and he's one of the hardest hitting linebackers in the NFL. And not to mention, for the past 2 seasons, he's been Pro Bowl and first team All-Pro.
I mean, for the most part, you took the words right out of my mouth. And I'm pulling up his statistics right now just to double check. But another really encouraging thing about him is that this guy not only is able to play in coverage, but he can get to the quarterback as well. He has great. He not only can he play in coverage, he can rack up sacks. He can hit the quarterback. Has tackles for loss. Just everything, anything you need him to do. So early on in his career, he was an All-Pro. 2018, he had 7 sacks. He was an on-ball player. So they were using him. In almost as a defensive end, and he was able to pull that off. 8 quarterback hits, 12 tackles for loss, 163 combined tackles, 111 of them were solo. And then later on in his career, 2021, he was an All-Pro that year. Not quite as much in the pass rushing department, but his pass coverage. So this guy can really do it all. And on top of that, he got paid, and he's getting all of the recognition he deserves. This guy is a slam dunk number 1, and Micah Parsons is right behind him. However, as long as Darius Leonard is putting up statistics like this, it's going to be very close between these two. Like I said, Micah Parsons, man.
In fact, Adam, I just want to add one thing. I would argue that Darius Leonard is a fully realized Micah Parsons.
Basically. And if it turns out that Micah Parsons can't play and that this was just a fluke year, that's going to be very disappointing.
No,
and it would be very cowboy-like, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. But I don't see it happening. Micah Parsons is just different. Like I said, Darius Leonard is just a fully realized Micah Parsons, and those two are going to be competing for the best linebacker for years to come.
Exactly. So there you have it, guys. That is our top 5. We basically, for the most part, we had a lot of the same players. Our top 3 was pretty much the same, except switch Micah Parsons and Fred Warner at 2 and 3. Bobby Wagner was the same spot at number 4. Darius Leonard, number 1. I had Demario Davis as number 5. And who did you have as number 5?
Deion Jones.
Deion Jones. So that's another one. And maybe you could just slander me into saying that I'm not giving him the recognition that he deserves either. But
I'm not going to do that. I'm too nice.
Deion Jones is a very good player, and I could understand why he's number 5. I just had Demario Davis. I think he deserves a lot of recognition as well.
Oh yeah, he totally does. I respect it.
But without further ado, we are going to get into our fan box. Which is where we are going to talk about where you guys think all these linebackers go. We're going to talk about the most underappreciated linebackers in the league. We'll get to that next. This is the Fumblerooski Podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski Podcast. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medieros, and here we are. We are on to the fan box, and this has been a very quick episode so far. We're just under the 20-minute mark, which is unheard of for Fumblerooski episodes. But I mean, we have a lot to talk about, guys. We're talking about an entire league. Try and fit it in a 45-minute episode, and sometimes they do go late, but we want to give you all the coverage we can. And this episode has been fairly quick, short and sweet, but I'm sure the time will go up with these answers because we got a lot of them. We got a lot of good ones from you guys. So we're going to start off with CJ's pick. So CJ does respond to our fan box questions, and he mentioned Deion Jones, who he had as his number 5 linebacker in the league. He said Deion Jones from Atlanta. His play is always overshadowed by bad Falcons teams, yada, yada, yada. That's what he said earlier on in the show. Anything you want to add on to that?
Not really. All I'll really say is just that I had to put him number 5 because he's right up there with like the best of them. It's just, but like I said, it's just the fact he's on the Falcons is just, it's really heart-wrenching for me because I love his style of play. And if he was on a contender, he would be a household name.
That's correct. He's really been able to do it all, and it really sucks that he hasn't been able to. And it looks like it's not going to get any better unless he wants to leave. And I'm not sure I haven't looked into his contract deals if he wants to leave in free agency whenever that comes up, or ask for a trade. But Patrick Williver said JOK. So I believe that means Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
It should mean that unless there's like another JOK we don't know about. And
that's a pretty solid one. He didn't jump out to you like a lot of people thought he did. He really fell in the 2021 draft. I believe it was because of off the field issues.
No, it was a health thing, I think.
A health thing.
Yeah,
yes.
He had like a heart deal, which technically is an off the field issue, but
Well, yeah, but that's like more like injury, like health.
Yeah.
That's legit. That's legit, and I hope he winds up being okay with that. However, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I like him, and I thought he had a solid season. Didn't jump. He's the type of linebacker where I think this could translate into a great breakout sophomore season. So, and this is underrated linebackers heading into 2022. So I like this pick. This is a good one. And I think we got a couple of people who said that. But Stephen Parker said Logan Wilson. So Logan Wilson is linebacker for the Bengals, and he had a pretty solid sophomore season. And he was a third round pick. And he came out and he was able to rack up those tackles, and he was a big part of that Bengals defense that helped them. They were serviceable as a unit, but got them to a Super Bowl. But anything you want to add on to that?
Yes. Now, we may know Logan Wilson for getting that unfortunate penalty at the goal line in the Super Bowl. What we can also take away from that is just his second season in the league, he had 100 combined tackles, 57 solo. And on top of that, he's kind of a ball hawk. I mean, look at it. 4 picks last season. And for a linebacker, that's a pretty darn good. And 4 passes deflected and a forced fumble. I expect this guy to take another step next season. Probably, perhaps into top 10.
Yeah. So in coverage, he had 55 targets last season, 57 completions, 465 yards. Like I said, I just think that when it comes to linebackers, being great in coverage is almost bonus, because you want to be, you are part of the front 7 technically, but that could change. He's in his sophomore season, and he was able to get a lot of tackles, which is great. And he's a good linebacker playing for a very young overall Bengals team, and very young defense as well with the draft that they had. But Jack Hartman said Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Anthony Walker.
Can you tell he's a Browns fan? And exactly. I mean that with all due respect. I do. We love you, Jack.
But that was an interesting one. Anthony Walker. They really do have a lot of underrated pieces, because that whole defense is overshadowed by 2 players.
Miles Garrett and Denzel Ward, right?
Ward. and they certainly deserve all the recognition, but some of the other players on this team are really good as well. But Anthony Walker, what do you have to say about him?
So I just pulled up his numbers, and last season, like I said, we knew he's like a tackling machine, but yeah, and he's like a big hitter. I mean, not quite the leader type, but he's a really good anchor for like his first season in Cleveland. And like I said, spent the first 4 years of his career in Indy. Last season was first season in the orange and brown of Cleveland, and I certainly think he's going to take the next step next season. I mean, it depends on how they use him, but he's probably going to get another triple-digit tackle season, and they'll probably give him another chance to like be good in coverage too.
Also, another thing to add on to that is they just re-signed him this offseason, and it's a 1-year, $5 million deal.
That's got to light a fire under him, I'd imagine.
That is a bargain for the Browns to get him for that little. For what he racked up 113 combined tackles, 69 of them being solo. So those are very nice numbers. And I really like that deal, at least for the Browns. That's going to light a fire under him. And this is a Browns team that is looking to contend this year, so they will definitely they will welcome that fire by Anthony Walker. And we already covered Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So Tyson Tate said Eric Kendricks. Here's one who is another underappreciated linebacker. And as I continue to look around the league at all these linebackers, I realize there's so many that are underappreciated because there's so many good ones. And Eric Kendricks is another one. He's made an All-Pro, and he's been a very solid piece to that Minnesota defense. I think maybe it's kind of like Deion Jones on the Falcons type deal. I know
absolutely.
On offense, the Vikings have been good, but the word around the league is that the Vikings defense in the past few years is not very good. And I think that's kind of the way it turns into. Same thing with Harrison Smith on that defense. And you just, your play gets overshadowed because everybody is like, bad. Very Vikings defense bad. Seahawks defense bad. Atlanta Falcons defense bad.
Very bad.
So therefore everybody on that defense is bad, which sucks because a great defensive effort requires a team, meaning everybody needs to be able to pull their weight. And if not everybody's pulling their weight, then the defense isn't going to be great. Ian Malern, and again, Ian, this is the way I've been pronouncing it. Not sure if I have it correct, but you let me know in the comments. Ian Mulhern said Bobby Wagner. So here's one who I don't believe. Maybe he's underrated because of his age.
A little bit, maybe,
I guess.
But
and
I wouldn't know.
His ability to get to the quarterback isn't great for a linebacker who has in the past been considered to be the best of the best. And he's been solid in coverage. He's very good in coverage, but he's bound to slow down because he's old. I do think he's going to have a productive season this year because, again, he's playing for a contender and he's ring chasing, which tells me that he's motivated and he's not just in it for the money, even though he was paid a lot, I believe. And then Nick Normand said, got to go with Devin White, no weaknesses, and makes huge impact plays. Now, Devin White is underrated, but no weaknesses is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, no. In fact, Adam, can I take this real quick?
Yes.
I wouldn't call him underrated. If anything, I'd say he's a tad overrated, just a tad. But see, here's the thing. When they say no weaknesses, he's at best below average in coverage. And keep in mind, this is no Devin White slander. I really like Devin White. I really do. But when I see, Devin White, he's been in the league for a few seasons now, 3, I believe. And it's just and I saw something. I know that, is it Pro Football Focus or something? I know there's like some big football grading site that's talking about impact ratings. And Devin White's impact rating is in like the bottom half of the top 32 starting linebackers. Like middle linebackers, And it's just, I feel like he kind of took a little bit of a step back last season. I mean, fewer tackles, fewer solo tackles, fewer tackles for loss. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but last season he went from like 9 sacks to 3.5. He has like 1 career pick, and it's just his coverage rating really isn't that good. And keep in mind, he's still top 10, but like I feel like he might be just a slight bit overrated.
Yeah, and this also could come down to the way the way Devin White is used, because if he has that good of an ability to get to the quarterback that he has 9 sacks, especially as a linebacker, you need to use him that way. You use him the way, play to his strengths, but don't keep on using him in coverage, because then you're just putting him in a position to fail, and you're putting your own team in position to lose. So I think a lot of that might have to do with the way he's being used. And obviously, if you have weaknesses, then that's not something to be understated. However, I do like Devin White. I like him. I think maybe he's a little overrated. I don't know. But William Mantle, this is a new responder. He said Quincy Williams.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. My issue with Quincy Williams is that he has potential. I mean, last season was his first 100 sack season with 73 solo sacks. So he's doing something right. But I mean, his coverage is hit and miss, but overall it's injuries. He has to stay healthy. And we saw last season that when he stays healthy, he can be a very productive linebacker. And I'm eager to see how it plays out next season, especially in the way of health.
Yeah, I see, when I look at Quincy Williams, I see a player who can play well when he is healthy. And health is my biggest knock on him. When he played 16 games last year and 110 combined tackles, 73 of them solo, which is crazy, and 9 tackles for loss. Those are all just incredible numbers. He just has to stay healthy. That's my biggest thing. And I guess coverage is, that's important. But like I said, I just find it almost a bonus to be able to play in coverage. Obviously that limits your use, but yeah. And our next response was Jackson Ivory, who said Jordan Brooks. So he's a linebacker for Seattle. Very good numbers. Another linebacker who is playing on the Seahawks. So a lackluster team, lackluster defense. So because the Seahawks defense is bad, that means everybody on that defense is bad, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you're, if you don't know football. But when I see Jordan Brooks, I see I know I say this a lot, but I really expect him to take the next step this year. This is officially his year to step up. You're not second fiddle to Bobby Wagner anymore. That linebacking core is yours if you want it, and I want to see if he goes and takes it.
Yeah, I really like Jordan Brooks, and and not only is this his linebacking core, this could be his defense basically, because they don't really have much there. So if he wants to become a star on that defense and really, really rack up his numbers, there's no one stopping you. There's no one else there to make that tackle. And if he's not able to take over this defense and really be a leader, and that's a lot to ask for a young kid, but if he's not able to rack up his statistics and really, really emerge as a linebacker, that could really leave a bad taste in people's mouths, especially your coordinators and your coaching staff, who are really expecting you to take that big step. But Enrico Hernandez, so this is an interesting one. He said Darius Leonard. And it's,
you already know how we feel about Darius
Leonard. All praise
here.
On
all
Darius
praise.
Williams.
Wait,
I just think he is getting
Leonard.
Yeah, Darius Leonard. My bad. Misspoke. All praise for Darius Leonard. Just, he's not underrated. That's the only problem. He's almost unanimously one of the best linebacker. I mean, according to the Fumblerooski podcast, he's unanimously number one. But he's universally known as the best linebacker in the league right now. Like it's very hard to find people. It's at a point, and I'm sure there's other people who have hot takes who will say Micah Parsons already overtaken him. Fred Warner, that kid, that guy on that team, leader. But most people are going to tell you Darius Leonard is the best in the league. He can do everything.
I don't know anyone that doesn't have him top 3 personally.
But I don't see him as underrated. I see him as just a badass linebacker who gets the praise that he deserves.
Absolutely.
Ian Malern again for a second response. He said Micah Parsons. So here's another one who I really like. Maybe he could be a little underrated just because of his age.
Yeah, I mean,
he
only played 1 year. It's not his fault.
In sort of the same way that we had Bobby Wagner as possibly underrated because of his age, because he's so old. But Micah Parsons, because he's young, I still think he's just not underrated. He's already become a household name. And Micah Parsons, and if he doesn't go up, then that's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Or at least stay the same. If he stays the same, then he's still, I might have him. I could have him number 1 in next summer's player rankings over Darius Leonard, but that would go hand in hand. Again, 2 players, Darius Leonard, Micah Parsons. You and I had him in our top 3. I had him both top 2. 2 players who are great linebackers. I just don't see him as underrated.
Same. I really don't either. I mean, everyone and their mother knows who they are. And everyone at bare minimum thinks they're both top 10.
Exactly. All linebackers who I really like, have a lot of respect for. I really like this list. And we had 11, 12 responses to this fan box. This is we got a pretty good turnout for this one. So I appreciate you guys sending me all these responses. And I forgot to read the intro to our fan box, but you guys kind of get the deal. We post a question filter. You guys can respond with anything you want. Usually I ask the question just so that we get the most responses. But if you want to just ignore our question sometimes and just say whatever you want, we will say it. We'll mention it on the show. Like,
that's a very dangerous game you're playing.
If you want to put out a hot take saying I love boneless wings more than bone-in wings when we're talking about the top linebackers, go ahead. We'll talk about it, and I'll tell you you're out of your mind, because I believe that bone-in wings are superior. The real wings, even though boneless wings are very they are useful. They're useful. If you're on a date and you want wings, don't get bone-in wings.
Oh yeah, that's a
messy.
mess.
It's gross.
Yep. It's
gross. It's messy. Even though Sarah lets me order bone-in wings. I mean, now we've been dating for about a year, but it's even early on, she was like, I don't really care. It's fine. But I don't blame you. I love wings. But boneless wings, guys, dating advice on the Fumblerooski show. Order boneless wings for a first date if you want wings.
Honestly, I feel like if you're just out in public, even with the guys, like no one wants to be all messy.
Oh, I don't care about that.
I feel
if I'm with the boys,
I mean, if I'm at home, I'll have bone in, but not out and about.
All right. And I apologize that I just changed the subject from football. But point proven, if you guys really want to say like whatever you want, and I have put that in for everything. Every single time I've introduced our fan box. If you guys say whatever you want, really say whatever you want. If it doesn't even have to be football related, I guess you could talk about baseball. You could talk about the political state of the world.
Jeez, Adam, we're not ready for that.
As long as it's not too controversial, we'll at least say that you said it. We'll say, Mr. CJ said, vote Joe Biden.
Whoa, hey, whoa.
Vote CJ Medeiros for office.
Absolutely. That's right. It's CJ 2024. We're going all in.
We're going all in. All right, guys. So CJ, any other thoughts on whatever before you anything else to say before we end the show?
Actually, no, I am all good over here.
Yep, I'm pretty much good. A couple developing stories going on around the league. Deshaun Watson, that is something that is bound to explode eventually, with all the cases continuing to rack up. DK Metcalf, amongst contract talks, has actually opted to skip mandatory minicamp, even though it was an unexcused absence. So he is going to be fined by the Seahawks. And Baker Mayfield has been excused. He is going to be absent at minicamp, which makes sense because he has dug his foot in the ground and said, I am not going to play for you guys. I want to be traded. And as Jack Hartman said, he believes, and it's a pretty good point. He believes that they are going to be wait until a team gets desperate, and then they get if the Vikings can get if the Eagles can give up a first round pick if they can get a first round pick for Sam Bradford after Teddy Bridgewater went down in 2016, then Baker Mayfield can get a first round pick if a team really, really gets desperate. But that's about all I have. So that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune in to us live Tuesdays and Thursdays on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.